In part two of my interview with Travis from the Adventure Zone, we talk about his amazing podcast and what it's meant to so many people.
So Magnus is my main because, well, I would say, so we played the whole series, the whole arc, the whole campaign, and then that finished. And so, like, I really feel like I beat that character. You don't beat D&D, but I feel like I beat that.
Explored him.
Yeah, right. And I'm playing a new character now that isn't. It's not Dungeons and Dragons, but she's a spellcaster and like she's young and very impulsive, and she's based off of like a lot of my favorite kind of wizards and stuff in media of like I can help and like flinging a fireball into a scenario and be like that didn't help like that kind of thing. And so I really like playing well, and I think I actually do know what this says about me is all of my characters end up being impulsive because I have ADD. And so like that's kind of the thing of myself that I carry over into all of my characters is like impulse, stuff. And because I like to play characters that are only thinly veiled, not me. Like that's like, no, that's me, but me if it was this person. And so all of my characters always end up kind of being me, but me, but they're 18. Me, but they're an elf. Me, but you know what I mean? And mostly because I just like myself so much. I really like playing myself.
For those that don't know, what is your show and why did you start it?
So Adventure Zone started oddly. So we do a podcast called My Brother and Me, where it's me and my older brother Justin, my little brother Griffin. And then my older brother, his wife was having a baby, so we were banking a bunch of episodes like for his paternity leave. And so Griffin had the idea of like, well, we'll do this like one-off. So we bought like, the D&T, like the starter pack, and we just played that. So we just pulled like, pre-rolled fighter, pre-rolled healer, and we put out one episode of it intending it to be like, oh, that was a fun experiment. And then people really liked it. And so we started doing it more, and I would say it probably took us until like the second arc of the campaign to really find what the show was, because at first it was just about us being bad at D&D and being goobers and like not knowing what we were doing and like probably breaking rules that we didn't know existed. And then over time our audience started to take it seriously and care about the characters and get invested in the story, and like then that reflected back to us of like, okay, we're like writing, this is like collaborative narrative storytelling. This isn't it's still a comedy show, but it's also like we're building a story, we're writing a story. And so we started treating it more like, with characterization and backstory and how the characters interacted together. And so we did it like that campaign for like 3 years, and so it really built this like where they started to where they ended was really satisfying. So then it also finished, like we were like, that's the characters. And so we then did a couple like experimental arcs, 4-episode arcs of like one set in like kind of the Old West, but like an old universe Old West with like werewolves and vampires and stuff. And then we did one that was like a superhero campaign. And then we did one called Amnesty, where it was like kind of a Buffy supernatural-esque, like, well, there's a new bad monster in town and we got to stop him. And it's set in like modern day West Virginia. And it's like very cryptozoological and that. So it started as like 4 goobers role-playing game playing. And then it became like a collaborative fiction storytelling podcast.
What's been the reaction with fans?
I mean, they love it. Like, it feels
because
weird.
You didn't start out doing D&D, but then you started in role playing.
Yeah,
stuff,
and the interesting thing about it is, so we'd been doing my brother and me for a couple years before that, and we do live shows and everything, and people show up. But then with doing the Adventure Zone, people started dressing as their characters and showing up in costume and doing like fan art, and like it was a completely different kind of experience versus like being a comedian to them being like a writer of like the characters taking on this importance to people beyond us doing it, beyond the show, was like this character means something to me because of how I interpret it and how I see it and how it reflects to me something within myself. And so it was a really interesting kind of learning experience to kind of realize that I only have so much ownership of the character before it then goes into like how somebody else feels about it and what that means to them. And so like everybody kind of owns a piece of it for themselves, and it really is a very truly inspiring and humbling experience to, you know, get messages from people of like, this is what this meant to me in a time when I really needed it. And to think like, wow, that's way beyond just like I told the funny joke and somebody laughed and they felt better, to like there was something within this character, there's something you said or did that like really impacted me in a way that is very cool. You know, I just like making people happy. There's something very gratifying to me. Well, you know what? Listen, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't like making people laugh and applause and stuff, because I like attention. So a big part of it is I like attention. But at some point, I think it was when, I don't know if it was when I became a dad or when, like, whatever. But, like, this build up to, it went from, so we've been doing it, my brother and me, for almost over 8 years. And like over 400 episodes. And at some point, it stopped being this like fun thing we were doing to doing like a job to then like, this is like our legacy almost in a weird way. That Justin and Griffin are going to roll their eyes at me saying that. But like this idea of like, this is a thing. There's over 400 episodes of it. And when my daughter's old enough, she'll be able to like listen to it and be like, this, my dad did this. And then with like Adventure Zone, I mean, we're working on the Adventure Zone graphic novel now, and like that's gonna be a thing. And there's something about like, there's learning the difference between like being at a party and making a joke and making my friends laugh versus like creating a thing that's going to grow beyond what I do with it, and instead grow into what it means to them. Is like, wow, that's much bigger than me. And like, I hope that I am doing something that is improving the world, that there's, I used to say, and this is really gross, but not gross, but I hope it doesn't make me sound too pompous, but I like the idea of, even if it's just one person, there's somebody out there who's gonna like be inspired by something I do to then start doing things themselves. And to kind of keep that chain going of like, I listen to that, because that's the thing, like I do this because of things that I listened to and enjoyed. And so like I started doing it, and then I hope that there are people that feel the same way, and that keeps going and people continue that kind of chain of creation.
Thank you, Travis, for being on the show. I'm Todd Kenrick, your host. Thank you so much for watching.